The most feared man in Italy was planning a blood merger with his future wife until he saw his ex-lover crossing the street with twins that had his eyes. Bernardo Schiavone fixed the buttons on his black shirt as his bulletproof Mercedes rolled through the wet streets of Rome. It was raining lightly, and the city lights made everything look orange and blurry through the drops on the windshield. 2 cars full of his men followed behind him. They always followed. That was the rule. Stay with me because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. And trust me, tomorrow I'm dropping another one you won't want to miss. Now let's dive back in. The woman sitting next to him was checking her lipstick in a small mirror. Graziella Trevisan, 28 years old, with straight black hair that fell past her shoulders and sharp red lips that never smiled unless she wanted something. She wore a tight red dress that probably cost more than most people made in a month. She was beautiful in the way a knife was beautiful. Dangerous. Perfect for cutting. Bernardo was 33. He had been running the Sicilian families since he was 26, ever since his father died, and left him an empire built on fear and loyalty. He had learned early that feelings were weaknesses. Love was a trap. Trust got you killed. That was why his engagement to Graziella made perfect sense. Her father controlled the ports. His family controlled the streets. Together, they would own everything from Naples to Milan. The wedding was in 4 months. He did not love her. She did not love him. That was exactly how it should be. My father says the wedding should be in Venice, Graziella said, snapping her mirror shut. Somewhere everyone can see it. Somewhere that makes a statement. Bernardo said nothing. He was good at saying nothing. His gray eyes stayed on the road ahead, watching everything and feeling nothing. The traffic light turned red. The car stopped. People started crossing the street in front of them. Normal people. People with normal jobs and normal problems. People who did not know that the man sitting in the car watching them had ordered men to disappear with just a nod of his head. Bernardo watched them without really seeing them. His mind was already on tomorrow's meeting. There was a problem with a shipment coming through Genoa. Someone was stealing from him. But someone would not be stealing much longer. Then he saw her. A woman was crossing the street. She moved slowly, like every step hurt. She was carrying 2 babies pressed against her chest in one of those fabric holders that kept them close to her body. The babies were wrapped in soft blankets, one blue, one pink. Twins. The woman had reddish-brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Even from inside the car, Bernardo could see the dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired. More than tired. She looked like someone who had not slept in months. She wore a faded beige coat that used to be white, jeans with a small tear in the knee, and shoes that had seen too many rainy days. But even with her head down, even with exhaustion written all over her, Bernardo knew that face. He knew the shape of her jaw. He knew the way she walked, careful and gentle, like she was protecting something precious. He knew the small scar above her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike when she was 12, and he had carried her home. Flavia Romano, the only woman he had ever loved. The woman he had thrown away like garbage exactly 1 year and 3 months ago. The babies looked about 4 months old, maybe 5. Bernardo's brain, the same brain that could calculate profit margins and plan hits without blinking, did the math in half a second. 1 year and 3 months since he left her. 9 months to make a baby. For months since they were born. The timing was perfect. The timing was impossible. The timing was destroying him. Bernardo's hands that had held guns steady while men begged for their lives, started shaking against the leather armrest. His throat felt tight. His chest felt like someone had reached inside and squeezed his heart with an iron fist. Outside, Flavia stopped in the middle of the crosswalk. One of the babies started crying. He could not hear it through the bulletproof glass, but he could see her body shift, see her lean down and press a kiss to the tiny head. Her lips moved. She was humming something. The baby stopped crying. She kept walking, her steps careful on the wet pavement, and then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd on the other side of the street. Bernardo. Graziella's voice cut through the fog in his head. The light is green. Your driver is waiting. He blinked. Cars behind them were honking. His men in the car behind were looking at each other, confused. Bernardo never froze. Bernardo never hesitated. "Bernardo, you look strange," Graziella said, studying his face like a doctor looking at a sick patient. Her eyes narrowed. "Did you see someone you know? That woman with the babies?" Bernardo forced his face back into stone. The mask he wore every single day. The mask that never cracked. "No one important," he said. But his mind was screaming. Had Flavia been pregnant when he left her? That night, the worst night of his life, when he told her they were done, that she did not belong in his world, that loving him would only get her hurt. Had she been carrying his children inside her body while he was breaking her heart? Or had she found out later, after he was already gone, and decided she would rather raise them alone than tell him? Both options felt like knives. He had left her because of photos. Photos that one of his men showed him of Flavia kissing another man outside a cafe. Photos that made his blood boil and his pride explode. He had not asked questions. He had not let her explain. He had just walked into her apartment, said 5 words, "We are done, get out," and watched her cry while he felt nothing. Except he had felt something. He had felt everything. But he buried it deep where feelings went to die. Now, seeing her with those babies, tired and thin and struggling, but still standing, Bernardo realized something that made his entire world crack down the middle like broken glass. She had given him children, a son and a daughter, and she had done it completely, totally alone. While he sat in a bulletproof car next to a woman he felt nothing for, planning a wedding that meant nothing, Flavia had been fighting to survive, fighting to feed 2 babies, fighting to stay alive in a world that took everything from people like her. The car started moving again. Graziella went back to talking about wedding flowers and guest lists and photographers. Bernardo heard none of it. All he could see was Flavia's face. All he could think about were those 2 tiny bundles pressed against her chest. His children, his blood, his family. The family he threw away because he was too proud and too stupid to ask one simple question: "Is this real?" By the time they reached the restaurant, Bernardo had made a decision. He would find out the truth. He would find Flavia. He would find out if those babies were his. And if they were, God help anyone who had kept them from him. Because the most dangerous man in Italy was about to become something even more terrifying. A father with something to lose. The dinner with Graziella lasted 2 hours, but felt like 2 days. Bernardo sat across from her at a table covered in white cloth and expensive wine, nodding at the right times, saying yes when he was supposed to say yes. But his mind was 3 miles away in a dirty street where a woman with tired eyes carried his children. When they finally left the restaurant, Bernardo told his driver to take Graziella home first. She kissed him on the cheek before getting out of the car, a cold kiss that felt like nothing. He did not even feel her lips. The moment she was gone, Bernardo pulled out his phone. He did not call any of his usual men. He could not. If those babies were his, if Flavia had been hiding them, then someone in his circle already knew. Someone had helped keep this secret. Someone had betrayed him. He scrolled through his contacts until he found a name he had not used in years. Paolo Ricci, a private investigator who used to do work for Bernardo's father before the old man died. Paolo was 60 now, retired, living in a small apartment in Florence. He did not owe loyalty to anyone in the family. He did not report to Bernardo's lieutenants. He was outside the circle. He was perfect. Bernardo dialed a number. It rang 4 times before a rough voice answered. "Who is this?" "It's Bernardo Schiavone. I need you to find someone." There was a long pause. Then Paolo laughed, a dry sound like old paper crumpling. "I'm retired, boy. Find someone else. I'll pay you 50,000 euros. Cash. Tonight." Another pause. Longer this time. "Who am I looking for?" "A woman named Flavia Romano. She's in Rome. I saw her today near the Via del Corso. She has 2 babies with her. Twins. I need photos. I need to know where she lives. I need to know everything. When do you need this?" "Tomorrow." Paolo laughed again, but this time it was not a happy sound. "You want me to find a ghost in 24 hours? You found people for my father in less time. I remember the stories. Your father also paid me double when he wanted the impossible. Fine, 100,000, but I get the photos by tomorrow night." Paolo was quiet for a long moment. Bernardo could hear him breathing on the other end of the line, thinking, calculating. Finally, he spoke. "I'll call you tomorrow at 8. Have the money ready." The line went dead. Bernardo leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. His heart was beating too fast. His hands were still shaking. He hated how weak he felt, how out of control. Control was everything in his world. Control meant power. Control meant survival. But right now, he had no control at all. The next day passed like a nightmare. Bernardo sat through meetings he did not care about. He signed papers he did not read. He listened to his men talk about shipments and territory and money, and all he could think about was Flavia's face. The way she looked so tired. The way she held those babies like they were the only things in the world that mattered. At exactly 8 o'clock that night, his phone rang. "I have what you need," Paolo said, "but you're not going to like it. Just tell me." She's living in a building on the east side of the city. 4th floor, apartment 12. The place is falling apart. The walls are cracked. The heat barely works. She's living there with the babies and no one else. Bernardo's jaw tightened. "Send me the photos." Sending them now. Bernardo's phone buzzed. He opened the message and his breath stopped. There were 4 photos. The first one showed Flavia standing outside a grocery store, holding a bag in one hand and pushing a stroller with the other. She looked even more tired than she had yesterday. Her coat was too thin for the cold. Her shoes had holes in them. The second photo was closer. It showed the stroller. 2 babies sat inside, bundled in blankets that looked homemade. The one on the left had dark hair and dark eyes. The one on the right had lighter hair, reddish like Flavia's. The third photo made Bernardo's heart stop completely. It was a close-up of the baby with dark hair. The baby was looking at the camera, and even through the grainy photo, Bernardo could see it. The shape of the eyes. The way the baby's face was already starting to form the same sharp angles that Bernardo saw in the mirror every morning. That was his child. He knew it the way he knew his own name. The 4th photo was of the other baby, the one with lighter hair. Her face was softer, rounder, but there was something in the way she held her tiny fist that reminded him of Flavia. Stubborn. Strong. Bernardo stared at the photos until his vision blurred. Then he called Paolo back. "Are you sure she's alone? No one else lives there?" "Positive. I watched the building all day. She went out twice. Once for food, once for diapers. She came back alone both times. No family. No friends. No man. Good. Send me the address." "Already did. The money. I'll have someone drop it off at your apartment tonight." Bernardo hung up and stared at the photo of the dark-haired baby again. His son. He had a son and a daughter, and they were living in a place with cracked walls and no heat while he sat in a house with 12 bedrooms and guards at every door. Rage burned through him like fire. Not at Flavia, at himself, at whoever had lied to him, at the photos that had destroyed everything. He pulled up the address Paolo had sent him and memorized it. Then he opened his contacts and scrolled past all the names of his men, his soldiers, his so-called brothers. He trusted none of them now. Tomorrow, he would go to that building. Tomorrow, he would see Flavia face to face. Tomorrow, he would find out the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Because Bernardo Schiavone did not run from anything, not even the ghosts of his own mistakes. Graziella knew something was wrong the moment Bernardo walked into his office the next morning. She had been waiting for him in the leather chair by his desk, legs crossed, wearing a white suit that hugged her body like a second skin. Her nails were painted the same red as her lips. She looked perfect. She always looked perfect. But Bernardo barely glanced at her when he entered. He walked straight to the window and stood there with his hands in his pockets, staring out at the city like she did not exist. "You've been quiet," Graziella said, her voice smooth as silk. "Since yesterday, since we drove through the city. I have a lot on my mind," Bernardo said without turning around. "Business?" "Yes, business." Graziella stood up and walked over to him. She placed one hand on his shoulder. Her touch was light, delicate, but there was steel underneath it. "We're getting married in 4 months, Bernardo. We're supposed to be partners. If something is bothering you, you should tell me." Bernardo finally turned to look at her. His gray eyes were cold and empty. "It's nothing you need to worry about." Graziella smiled, but did not reach her eyes. "I'll worry about everything, darling. That's how I stay alive." She moved closer, so close that he could smell her perfume. It was expensive and sharp, like everything else about her. You've been different since yesterday. Distant, like your mind is somewhere else. She tilted her head, studying his face. Or with someone else. Bernardo's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Graziella's smile widened. I'm not stupid, Bernardo. I saw the way you looked at that woman. The one with the babies. You knew her, didn't you? She was no one. Liar. Graziella's voice was still soft, still sweet, but there was poison in it now. You forget that I know you. I've been watching you for 3 years, studying you, learning every little thing that makes you tick. And yesterday, for the first time since I've known you, you looked afraid. Bernardo grabbed her wrist, his grip tight enough to hurt. Be very careful what you say next. Graziella did not flinch. She leaned in closer instead, her red lips almost touching his ear. We have a contract, you and I. Your power combined with my father's money. Your streets combined with our ports. That contract is worth more than any feelings you think you still have for some ghost from your past. She pulled back and looked him in the eyes. Don't forget what happens if you break a contract in our world, Bernardo. People die. He let go of her wrist and stepped back. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you. Graziella smoothed down her suit and walked back to the chair. The wedding is in 4 months. My father has already invited half of Europe. If you embarrass me, if you embarrass my family, there will be consequences. Do you understand? Bernardo stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. I understand. Good. Graziella picked up her purse and headed for the door. But before she left, she looked back at him one more time. Whatever you're planning, Bernardo, stop. That life is over. You chose this one. Then she was gone, her heels clicking down the hallway like the ticking of a clock. Bernardo stood there alone, his hands clenched into fists. He wanted to punch something. He wanted to scream. But he didn't either. He just stood there, breathing hard, until the anger turned into something colder, something sharper. Graziella was right about one thing. They had a contract. But what she did not know was that Bernardo was very good at breaking contracts when they no longer served him. 3 hours later, Graziella sat in a private room at the back of a restaurant on the other side of the city. The room was small and dark, lit only by a single lamp hanging from the ceiling. 2 men sat across from her at a round table. Both of them wore dark jackets and had the kind of faces that looked mean even when they smiled. The first man was named Luca. He was 40, with a shaved head and a scar running down his left cheek. The second man was younger, maybe 30, with slick back hair and cold brown eyes. His name was Tomas. These were Bernardo's men, or at least they used to be. Now they were Graziella's. He knows, Graziella said, pouring herself a glass of wine. He doesn't know everything yet, but he knows something is wrong. It's only a matter of time before he starts digging. Luca leaned back in his chair and scratched his jaw. What do you want us to do? I want you to make sure he never finds out the truth. Graziella took a sip of her wine and looked at both men. The photos we used to break them up, the fake evidence, the lies. All of it needs to disappear. And if Bernardo gets too close to her, if he tries to talk to her, you need to remind him what happens when people dig up the past. Tomas frowned. You want us to hurt the girl? I want you to scare her. Make her understand that Bernardo's world is not safe for her or those babies. Make her run. Make her disappear. Graziella set down her glass and folded her hands on the table. I've worked too hard to get where I am. I'm not going to let some poor little ex-girlfriend ruin everything because Bernardo suddenly grew a heart. Luca and Tomas exchanged a look. Then Luca nodded. We'll take care of it. Good. Graziella stood up and grabbed her purse. And one more thing. If Bernardo finds out you're working for me, I'll deny everything. You'll be on your own. Understood. Both men nodded. Graziella smiled her cold, beautiful smile. Then she walked out of the room, leaving the 2 men sitting in the dark. Outside, the city was alive with noise and light, but inside that small room, there was only silence and the smell of betrayal. Bernardo waited in the parking lot of the grocery store for 2 hours before he saw her. He sat in his car with the engine off, parked between 2 other vehicles where no one would notice him. He had told his driver to stay home. He had told his men he was handling business alone. This was not something he wanted witnesses for. The sun was starting to set when Flavia finally appeared. She pushed her rusty shopping cart through the automatic doors, moving slowly like every step took effort. The twins were strapped to her chest in that same fabric holder, their tiny heads resting against her. One was asleep. The other was awake, staring at the orange sky with wide eyes. Bernardo watched her load 2 bags of groceries into the bottom of the stroller she had folded up in the cart. Cheap groceries, the kind that cost almost nothing. Bread, pasta, a small container of milk. That was it. That was all she could afford. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Rage burned through him again, hot and sharp. His children were eating cheap food while he owned 3 houses and had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. Flavia closed the stroller and started walking toward the bus stop at the edge of the parking lot. She did not have a car. Of course she did not have a car. She probably could not even afford bus fare most days. Bernardo opened his car door and stepped out. He moved quickly, crossing the parking lot in long strides. His shoes made no sound on the pavement. He was good at being quiet when he needed to be. Flavia. She froze. For a moment, she did not turn around. She just stood there with her back to him, her shoulders going stiff, her hands gripping the stroller, so hard her knuckles turned white. Then, slowly she turned. The moment their eyes met, Bernardo felt like someone had punched him in the chest. Up close, she looked even worse than she had from a distance. Her face was pale and thin. There were dark circles under her eyes, so deep they looked like bruises. Her lips were chapped. Her hair, that beautiful reddish-brown hair he used to run his fingers through, was dull and lifeless. But her eyes were still the same, brown and fierce and full of fire. What do you want? Her voice was flat, empty, like she had used up all her emotions months ago and had nothing left. I want to talk. No. Flavia, please. No. She turned and started walking again, pushing the stroller faster now. Bernardo followed her. Are they mine? She stopped again. This time when she turned around, there were tears in her eyes, but her voice was pure anger. Go away, Bernardo. Answer the question. Are they mine? Why? Flavia's voice cracked. What does it matter now? You threw me out. You told me I was nothing. You looked me in the eyes and said we were done, and you did not even give me a chance to explain. So why do you care now? Because I saw you, Bernardo said, stepping closer. I saw you crossing the street with them, and I knew. I knew the timing. I knew. Flavia laughed, but it was a horrible sound, broken and bitter. You knew? You knew nothing. You know nothing. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You want to know if they're yours? Fine. Yes, they're yours. The boy has your eyes. The girl has your stubborn attitude. Happy now? Bernardo felt like the ground had disappeared under his feet. He had known it. He had known it from the moment he saw them. But hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way that hurt more than any bullet ever could. Why didn't you tell me? His voice came out rough, almost broken. Tell you. Flavia's voice rose. Tell you what, Bernardo? That I was pregnant? When? When you were screaming at me and calling me a liar. When you were throwing my clothes into the hallway. When you were looking at me like I was garbage. She shook her head, and tears ran down her cheeks. I tried to tell you. I tried to explain about the photos, about the man you saw me with. He was my cousin, Bernardo. My cousin from Naples who came to visit me. But you did not care. You did not want to hear it. You had already decided I was guilty. Bernardo's throat felt tight. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Flavia looked down at the twins, her expression softening for just a moment. Then she looked back at him, and the softness was gone. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you left. I went to your house to tell you. Your men would not let me in. They said you gave orders. No one was supposed to let me near you. So I left. I left the city. I went to stay with a friend in Florence. I had the babies there. Alone. Do you know what it's like to give birth alone, Bernardo? To have no one holding your hand? No one telling you it's going to be okay. Flavia, I came back to Rome 3 months ago because my friend needed her apartment back. I've been working night shifts at a cleaning company, and I can barely afford diapers. Her voice broke again. So don't you dare stand here and act like you care. You didn't want us then. Don't you dare want us now. The baby boy started crying. Flavia immediately adjusted the carrier, bouncing gently and humming that same soft tune Bernardo had seen through the car window. The baby quieted. "I want to help," Bernardo said quietly. "Help?" Flavia stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You want to help? Where were you 6 months ago when I was sleeping on a couch because I could not afford rent? Where were you when I was crying every night because I did not know how I was going to feed them? Where were you, Bernardo?" "I didn't know. Because you didn't ask. Because you didn't care enough to find out if the woman you claimed to love was telling the truth." She grabbed the stroller and started walking again. "Leave us alone. Go back to your fancy life and your fancy fiancé. We don't need you." "I'm not leaving." Bernardo followed her, his voice hard now. "They're my children. I have a right to know them." Flavia spun around so fast the stroller almost tipped over. "Rights? You lost your rights when you walked away. You lost your rights when you chose to believe lies over me. These are my children. Mine. I carried them. I birthed them. I'm raising them. You're just the man who destroyed me and walked away." She turned and walked toward the bus stop without looking back. Bernardo stood in the parking lot, watching her go, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. He had faced down enemies. He had survived wars. He had built an empire on blood and fear. But standing there, watching the only woman he ever loved walk away with his children, Bernardo realized something that terrified him. He had no idea how to fix this. And for the first time in his life, violence would not be the answer. Bernardo did not sleep that night. He sat in his office with all the lights off, staring at the wall, replaying every word Flavia had said to him. Her voice kept echoing in his head. "You didn't want us then. Don't you dare want us now." She was right. He had not wanted to hear the truth. He had seen those photos and let his pride do the thinking instead of his brain. By the time the sun came up, Bernardo had made two decisions. First, he would get a DNA test to confirm what he already knew in his bones. Second, he would find out who gave him those photos and why. At 9 in the morning, he called Paolo again. "I need you to get me something," Bernardo said. "DNA samples. From the twins." Paolo was quiet for a moment. "You want me to break into her apartment and steal baby hair?" "No. I want you to follow her. When she throws away a diaper or a bottle, take it. Can you do that?" "It's disgusting, but yes. I can do that. Do it today. I'll pay you another 50,000. "You're spending a lot of money on a woman you claim to not care about," Paolo said. "Just do it." Paolo hung up. Bernardo spent the rest of the morning locked in his office, refusing to see anyone. His men kept knocking on the door, asking if he was okay, but he ignored them all. He did not trust any of them anymore. Someone in his circle had lied to him. Someone had helped destroy the best thing in his life. At 3 in the afternoon, his office door opened without permission. Bernardo looked up, ready to yell at whoever had the nerve to walk in without knocking. It was Dante, his oldest friend and the man in charge of his security. Dante was 40, built like a truck, with short gray hair and a face full of old scars. He had been loyal to Bernardo's father and then to Bernardo himself for almost 20 years. "We need to talk," Dante said, closing the door behind him. "Not now." "Yes, now." Dante walked over to the desk and dropped a thick yellow folder in front of Bernardo. "I found something. Something you need to see." Bernardo stared at the folder. "What is it?" "Open it." Bernardo opened the folder. Inside were photos. The same photos he had been shown over a year ago. The photos of Flavia kissing another man outside a cafe. The photos that had made him throw her out of his life. But these photos were different. There were more of them. And underneath the stack of pictures was a piece of paper with notes written in handwriting he recognized. It was Luca's handwriting, one of his lieutenants. The notes said things like "angle makes it look closer than it is," and "use the one where his hand is on her shoulder and crop out the part where she pulls away." Bernardo's blood went cold. "Where did you get this?" His voice was barely a whisper. "I've been digging," Dante said, "ever since I saw you acting strange the other day. I know you, Bernardo. I've known you since you were a kid. Something's been eating at you. So I started asking questions. Quiet questions. And I found this folder in Luca's desk when he went home last night." Bernardo looked at the photos again. Now that he was really looking, he could see it. The way Flavia's body was turned away from the man. The way her hand was pushing against his chest, not pulling him closer. The way her face looked surprised, not happy. It was not a kiss. It was a man trying to kiss her, and her trying to stop him. They set me up, Bernardo said, his voice shaking with rage. Luca set me up. Not just Luca. Dante pulled out another piece of paper. I found messages between Luca and Tomas, and messages between Tomas and someone else. Someone whose name kept coming up over and over. Who? Graziella. The name hit Bernardo like a punch to the face. What? Your fiancée. She paid them. She paid Luca and Tomas to get rid of Flavia. This was over a year ago, before you even proposed to her. She wanted you for herself, so she made sure Flavia disappeared. Dante's face was hard. I'm sorry, Bernardo. I should have caught this earlier. Bernardo stood up so fast his chair fell backward. His hands were shaking. His vision was going red. Where is Luca now? At the warehouse on the east side. He doesn't know I found this. Good. Keep it that way. Bernardo grabbed his jacket. I'm going to kill him. Dante grabbed his arm. Wait. You need to think about this. If you kill Luca now, Graziella will know you found out. She'll run. She'll hide. And you'll never get the full truth. Bernardo wanted to argue. He wanted to go to that warehouse and put a bullet in Luca's head. But Dante was right. He needed the full truth. He needed to know everyone who had betrayed him. Fine, Bernardo said through his teeth. But Luca doesn't leave the city. Put a man on him. Watch him every second. Already done. Bernardo sat back down and stared at the photos. His hands were still shaking. All this time, Flavia had been telling the truth. She had not cheated. She had not betrayed him. He had destroyed everything because he believed a lie. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Paolo. Got the samples. Meeting you at the lab in 1 hour. Bernardo stood up again. I'm leaving. Don't tell anyone where I went. What about Graziella? She's supposed to come by tonight to talk about the wedding. Tell her I'm busy. Tell her anything. I don't care. Bernardo left the office and drove to the private lab he sometimes used for business that needed to stay quiet. Paolo was waiting outside with a small plastic bag. Inside were 2 bottle caps and a piece of cloth. The boy chewed on the cloth, Paolo explained. The girl drank from 1 bottle. The other bottle is from the boy. DNA should be all over them. Bernardo handed Paolo an envelope full of cash. Then he went inside the lab and gave the samples to the doctor, a man who had worked for Bernardo's family for years and knew how to keep his mouth shut. I need results tonight, Bernardo said. That's fast. I'll pay triple. The doctor nodded. Come back in 4 hours. Bernardo went back to his car and sat there in the parking lot, waiting. 4 hours felt like 4 days. He could not stop thinking about Flavia's face, the way she had looked at him in that parking lot, the hatred in her eyes, hatred he had put there. When the 4 hours were up, Bernardo went back inside. The doctor handed him a folder. The results are clear, the doctor said. You're the father. Both children share your DNA. No doubt about it. Bernardo opened the folder and stared at the numbers and charts that proved what his heart already knew. Those were his children, his son, his daughter, and he had spent the first months of their lives sitting in meetings and planning a wedding to a woman who had destroyed everything. He walked out of the lab and got back in his car. Then, for the first time since he was a child, Bernardo Schiavone put his head in his hands and cried. Not because he was sad, because he was angry. Angry at himself. Angry at the people who had lied to him. Angry at the time he had lost. Time he would never get back. But crying would not fix anything. So Bernardo wiped his eyes, started the car, and made a promise to himself. He would make this right, no matter what it cost. No matter who he had to destroy. He would get his family back. The next morning, Bernardo's phone rang at 6 in the morning. It was not a number he recognized, but he answered it anyway. We need to meet. The voice on the other end was deep and rough, like gravel scraping against metal. Bernardo knew that voice. It belonged to Romano Trevisan, Graziella's father, the man who controlled every port from Genoa to Sicily, the man whose alliance Bernardo needed to keep his empire running smoothly. When Bernardo asked, "Now, my warehouse. Come alone." The line went dead. Bernardo got dressed and drove to the warehouse on the south side of the city. It was a massive building made of concrete and rust, surrounded by shipping containers stacked 3 stories high. This was where Romano's men unloaded cargo that never appeared on any official paperwork. 2 guards stood outside the main entrance. They patted Bernardo down for weapons, took his gun, and then opened the door. Inside, the warehouse was cold and dark. The only light came from a single bulb hanging from the ceiling in the center of the room. Under that light stood Romano Trevisan. He was 60 years old, with silver hair slicked back and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He wore a long black coat and leather gloves, even though it was not that cold. Everything about him screamed danger. Bernardo. Romano's voice echoed in the empty space. Thank you for coming. You didn't give me a choice. Romano smiled, but there was no warmth in it. My daughter tells me you've been distracted lately. Distant. She thinks you're having second thoughts about the wedding. Your daughter talks too much. My daughter is smart. Smarter than you, apparently. Romano walked closer, his shoes clicking on the concrete floor. Let me be very clear about something. This wedding is not just about love or family or any of that nonsense. This wedding is business. My ports, your streets. Together, we control everything. Apart, we're just two old men fighting over scraps. I understand that. Do you? Romano stopped right in front of Bernardo, close enough that Bernardo could smell his cologne. Expensive. Overpowering. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're thinking about breaking our agreement. And breaking agreements in our world has consequences. Bernardo met his eyes without blinking. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you of reality. Romano pulled off one glove, finger by finger, taking his time. I've invested a lot in this marriage. Money, connections, promises to people who don't like being disappointed. If you walk away now, those people will come looking for answers. And they'll come looking for blood. I haven't walked away from anything. Not yet. But you're thinking about it. I can see it in your eyes. Romano put his hand on Bernardo's shoulder. The touch was almost friendly, but the grip was iron. Whatever is pulling your attention away from my daughter, get rid of it. I don't care if it's a business problem or a personal problem. Fix it, or I'll fix it for you. Bernardo felt rage burning in his chest, but he kept his face blank. Is that all? One more thing. Romano's grip tightened. Graziella mentioned you saw an old friend the other day, a woman with children. She seemed to think this woman might be important to you. Bernardo's blood went cold, but he did not let it show. If this woman is a problem, Romano continued, then she needs to stop being a problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? Perfectly. Good. Romano let go and stepped back. The wedding is in 4 months. Don't make me regret choosing you as a son-in-law. He turned and walked toward a door at the back of the warehouse. My men will return your gun on the way out. Bernardo stood there alone under the single light bulb, his heart pounding. Romano had just threatened Flavia without saying her name. He had just told Bernardo to get rid of her, or someone else would. Bernardo walked out of the warehouse, got his gun back from the guards, and drove straight to Dante's house. Dante opened the door in sweatpants and a shirt, looking half asleep. It's barely 7 in the morning. I need you to move money, Bernardo said, pushing past him into the house. A lot of money, and I need you to do it quietly. Dante closed the door and followed him into the kitchen. How much money? 5 million euros. Split it into different accounts. Accounts that no one knows about except you and me. Dante poured himself coffee and stared at Bernardo. You're preparing for war. I'm preparing for the worst. What's going on? Bernardo told him about the meeting with Romano, about the threats, about the way Romano had talked about Flavia without using her name. When he finished, Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his coffee cup. If Romano thinks Flavia is a threat to the wedding, he'll send people after her. Not to talk, to make her disappear. I know. So what's the plan? Bernardo sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed his face. I need to move her somewhere safe. Somewhere Romano's men can't find her. But she won't go willingly. She hates me. Can you blame her? No. Bernardo looked up at Dante. But I don't have time to win her trust. If Romano's men find her first, she's dead. And so are my children. Dante nodded slowly. I'll move the money today. 5 million in cash, spread across 6 different accounts. Untraceable. You'll have access by tonight. Good. I also need you to buy a property. Something outside the city. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere with security. A safe house. Yes. This is going to cost you more than money, Dante said. If you protect Flavia, you're declaring war on Graziella and her father. The wedding will be off. The alliance will be broken. Half your men might turn on you. I know. And you're still doing this? Bernardo thought about Flavia's face. The exhaustion, the pain, the way she had looked at him like he was the enemy. He thought about the twins, his son with his eyes, his daughter with Flavia's stubbornness. Yes, Bernardo said, I'm still doing this. Dante smiled, a real smile this time. Good. I was starting to think you'd forgotten what it means to be human. Bernardo stood up. Start moving the money. I'll deal with Flavia. Ow, I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. He left Dante's house and got back in his car. His phone buzzed with a text from Graziella. Dinner tonight? We need to talk about the guest list. Bernardo stared at the message. The woman who had destroyed his life was texting him about dinner like nothing was wrong. Like she had not paid men to lie. Like she had not stolen a year of his children's lives. He typed back a single word. Busy. Then he deleted her number and threw his phone on the passenger seat. The games were over. The lies were over. Now came the hard part. Now came the truth. The call came 11:30 that night. Bernardo was sitting in his office, going over bank statements with Dante when his phone rang. It was Paolo. They made a move, Paolo said, his voice tight. There was a shooting at the cleaning company where Flavia works. Bernardo's heart stopped. Is she alive? Yes. She wasn't there. She called in sick tonight because one of the babies has a fever. But the bullets went through the windows of the break room, right where she usually sits during her shift. Paolo paused. This wasn't random, Bernardo. Someone knew her schedule. Bernardo was already grabbing his jacket. Where is she now? At her apartment. I'm parked across the street watching. But if they hit her workplace, they know where she lives. It's only a matter of time. I'm coming. Don't let her leave. Bernardo hung up and looked at Dante. Get the safe house ready. Now. Dante was already on his feet. I'll have it ready in an hour. Bernardo drove through the city like a man possessed, running red lights and ignoring speed limits. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Not from fear, from rage. Someone had tried to kill Flavia. Someone had shot up her workplace while she was supposed to be there. He knew exactly who that someone was. When he reached Flavia's apartment building, he saw Paolo's car parked across the street with the lights off. Bernardo parked behind him and got out. Fourth floor, Paolo said through his window. Apartment 12. The lights are still on. Bernardo did not wait. He walked into the building and climbed the stairs two at a time. The building smelled like mold and old garbage. The walls were covered in peeling paint. The floor was sticky under his shoes. When he reached apartment 12, he could hear one of the babies crying inside. He knocked hard on the door. The crying stopped. Everything went quiet. Flavia opened the door. Go away. Her voice came from the other side, shaking but firm. I know about the shooting. I know they tried to kill you tonight. Silence. Open the door, Flavia. Please. How do you know about that? Her voice was closer now, right on the other side of the door. How do you know what happened at my work? Because I've been having you watched. I've been protecting you. Protecting me? The door flew open. Flavia stood there in old sweatpants and a torn shirt, her hair wild, her eyes red from crying. Behind her, he could see the twins sleeping in a playpen that looked like it was held together with tape. You've been stalking me. Someone tried to kill you tonight. If you had been at work, you'd be dead right now. Bernardo stepped closer. They know where you live. They know your schedule. They'll come here next. Who? Who wants to kill me? People who don't want you to know about you. About the twins. Bernardo looked past her at the babies. Pack a bag. You're coming with me. I'm not going anywhere with you. This isn't a request. You don't get to order me around anymore. Flavia started to close the door, but Bernardo put his hand against it. 5 minutes ago, someone put 6 bullets through the window where you sit every night. 6 bullets meant for your head. His voice was low and hard. You can hate me all you want. You can scream at me. You can tell me to go to hell. But you're not staying here. Flavia stared at him, her chest rising and falling fast. If I go with you, you'll take them away from me. You'll use your money and your power, and you'll take my babies. No. Bernardo shook his head. I'm not taking them. I'm protecting them. And you. There's a difference. I don't trust you. I know, but you don't have a choice. Bernardo pulled out his phone and showed her a photo Paolo had sent him. It was a picture of the break room at the cleaning company. The windows were shattered. Bullet holes covered the wall. Blood was splattered on the floor where someone else had been hit. Flavia's face went white. Oh my God, that was meant for you. And if you stay here, they'll finish the job. Bernardo put his phone away. Pack a bag. Bring everything the babies need. You have 5 minutes. Flavia looked at the twins, then back at Bernardo. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. 5 minutes. She disappeared into the apartment. Bernardo heard drawers opening, things being thrown into bags. When she came back out, she had a backpack over one shoulder and a diaper bag over the other. The twins were strapped to her chest, both of them awake now and staring at him with wide eyes. Where are we going? Flavia asked. Somewhere safe. They went downstairs to Bernardo's car. He put the bags in the trunk while Flavia carefully buckled the twins into the 2 car seats Bernardo had bought and installed that afternoon. She did not ask where the car seats came from. She did not say anything at all. The drive took 40 minutes. They left the city and drove into the hills where the houses were spread far apart and hidden behind tall gates. Bernardo pulled up to a 2-story house surrounded by trees. It was simple but solid, with metal shutters on the windows and cameras on every corner. Dante was waiting by the front door. He nodded at Bernardo, looked at Flavia and the babies, and then stepped aside. Inside, the house was warm and clean. There was a living room with a couch and a television. A kitchen stocked with food. Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms. One of them had been turned into a nursery with 2 cribs, a changing table, and shelves full of diapers and baby supplies. Flavia walked into the nursery and stopped. She stared at the cribs, at the neat stacks of clothes in the drawers, at the bottles lined up on the shelves. Then she turned to Bernardo. You did all this today? Yes. Why? Because they're my children, and you're their mother. Bernardo leaned against the doorway. I'm not trying to take them from you, Flavia. I'm trying to keep you all alive. Flavia sat down in the rocking chair in the corner and started crying. Not loud, angry crying like before. Quiet, exhausted crying. The kind of crying that came from someone who had been holding everything inside for too long. Bernardo did not know what to do. He was good at giving orders. He was good at solving problems with violence. But he did not know how to comfort someone he had hurt so badly. So he just stood there and let her cry. After a long time, Flavia wiped her eyes and looked up at him. I need answers. Real answers. Who tried to kill me? And why? Bernardo sat down on the floor across from her. And for the first time since everything fell apart, he told her the whole truth. About the fake photos. About Graziella paying his men to destroy their relationship. About Romano's threats. About the shooting. When he finished, Flavia was shaking. Not from fear. From rage. She did this, Flavia whispered. Your fiancée. She ruined our lives because she wanted you for herself. Yes. And now she's trying to kill me. Yes. Flavia looked down at the twins, sleeping against her chest. Then she looked back at Bernardo. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to end this. All of it. Ow. I don't know yet. But I will. Bernardo stood up. For now, you stay here. Dante will be outside. No one knows about this place except him and me. You'll be safe. Flavia nodded slowly. Then she said something that surprised him. Thank you. Bernardo stopped at the door. For what? For finally telling me the truth. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he left before he said something he cannot take back. Outside, Dante was waiting by the car. What now? Now, Bernardo said, we go to war. Graziella knew something was very wrong when Bernardo stopped answering her calls. For 3 days, she had been texting and calling, and every time it went straight to voicemail. At first, she thought he was just being stubborn. Men like Bernardo needed time to cool off when they got angry. But 3 days of silence was different. 3 days meant he was planning something. She sat in her apartment on the 4th morning, drinking coffee and staring at her phone. Her father had called twice already, asking why Bernardo was avoiding meetings. The wedding planner was calling every hour with questions that needed answers. Everything was falling apart, and Graziella hated things falling apart. She dialed Luca's number. He answered on the 2nd ring. I need you to find Bernardo, Graziella said. Now, I haven't seen him in days, Luca said. He's not at his house. He's not at the office. It's like he disappeared. People like Bernardo don't just disappear. He's somewhere. Find out where. She hung up and poured herself another cup of coffee. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. She had worked too hard to let some dead relationship ruin everything. She had planned this for 3 years. 3 years of smiling at Bernardo. 3 years of pretending to care about his boring business meetings. 3 years of waiting for the wedding that would make her the most powerful woman in Italy. And now he was pulling away because of some poor girl with babies. Graziella's phone rang. It was Tomas. "We have a problem," Tomas said. "What kind of problem?" Dante moved money. A lot of money. 5 million euros spread across 6 accounts we've never seen before. And he bought a property 2 days ago. A house in the hills outside the city. Graziella's blood went cold. "Send me the address." "Graziella, if Bernardo finds out we're watching his accounts, send me the address." 5 minutes later, Graziella was in her car with Luca and Tomas. They drove out of the city and into the hills where the roads turned narrow and winding. The address Tomas had given her led to a house hidden behind trees and a tall metal gate. "That's it," Tomas said, pointing. Graziella told the driver to park down the road where they could not be seen. Then she got out and walked closer, staying in the shadows of the trees. She could see lights on inside the house. She could see a car parked in the driveway. Bernardo's car. And then she saw something that made her blood boil. Through one of the windows on the second floor, she could see a woman moving around. The woman had reddish-brown hair, pulled back in a ponytail. She was holding a baby, rocking it gently. Flavia. Bernardo had brought his ex-lover and those bastard children to his safe house. He had spent 5 million euros to protect them. He had hidden them away like they were precious treasures. Graziella walked back to the car, her heels clicking hard on the pavement. Luca and Tomas were waiting inside. "It's her," Graziella said, her voice shaking with rage. "He brought her here. He's protecting her. What do you want us to do?" Luca asked. Graziella stared at the house through the car window. She thought about the wedding, about her father's expectations, about the empire she was supposed to inherit. All of it was slipping through her fingers because Bernardo couldn't let go of some girl from his past. "I want them gone," Graziella said quietly. "Gone how?" Tomas asked. Graziella turned to look at him. Her eyes were cold and hard. "Permanently. The woman and the babies. All of them. I want them erased." Luca shifted in his seat. "That's a big move, Graziella. If Bernardo finds out." "Bernardo won't find out. Because you're going to make it look like an accident." Graziella pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. "I'll pay you 2 million euros. 1 million now. 1 million when the job is done." Tomas and Luca looked at each other. Then Tomas nodded. "When do you want it done?" "Tonight. Bernardo's at a meeting with suppliers until midnight." I checked his calendar. "That gives you a window. Get in, get it done, get out." "What about Dante?" Luca asked. "He's probably watching the house." "Then handle Dante too. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure there are no witnesses. No evidence. No loose ends." Graziella transferred 1 million euros to an account she knew Luca used for jobs like this. "You have 6 hours. Don't disappoint me." She told the driver to take her home. On the way back to the city, she called her father. "Where have you been?" Romano asked. "I've been trying to reach you all morning. Handling a problem. It'll be solved by tomorrow." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that could ruin the wedding. But don't worry. I'm taking care of it." Romano was quiet for a moment. "Does this have anything to do with Bernardo's little distraction? The woman I told him to handle?" "Yes." "And you're sure you can fix it?" "I'm sure." Graziella looked out the window at the city lights. "By tomorrow morning, she won't be a problem anymore. And Bernardo will have no choice but to move forward with the wedding." "Good. I'm tired of waiting. This alliance needs to happen. Soon." Graziella hung up and leaned back in her seat. She felt calm now. Focused. She had always been good at solving problems. When something was in her way, she removed it. Simple as that. By midnight, Flavia and those babies would be dead. Bernardo would be devastated for a while, but he would get over it. Men always did. And when he finally accepted that his past was gone, he would turn back to her, because she was all he had left. Graziella smiled to herself. She had won. She always won. But what Graziella didn't know was that Dante had cameras all around the safe house. Cameras that recorded everything. including the black car that had parked down the road, including Graziella's face when she stood in the shadows staring at the house. And Dante was already calling Bernardo. "We have a situation," Dante said when Bernardo answered. "Graziella found the safe house, and she's planning something. Something bad." Bernardo was in his car, heading back from a meeting on the other side of the city. "What do you mean she found it?" "I mean, she was here an hour ago with Luca and Tomas. They sat in a car watching the house. Then they left." Dante's voice was tense. "I checked the recordings. I read Graziella's lips. She said something about making them disappear. Tonight." Bernardo's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "How long until I get there?" 40 minutes if you drive fast. Tell Flavia to lock the doors and stay away from the windows. And get inside the house. Now. Already on my way." Bernardo hung up and pressed the gas pedal to the floor. His car flew down the highway, weaving between other vehicles, going twice the speed limit. His mind was racing faster than the car. Graziella was coming. She was coming to kill Flavia and the twins. She was coming to erase the only family he had left. But Bernardo would get there first. And when he did, Graziella would learn what happened to people who threatened his children. Bernardo was still 20 minutes away when he heard the first gunshot through the phone. He had Dante on speaker, and the sound came through clear and sharp. Then another shot. Then 3 more in quick succession. Then shouting. "Dante!" Bernardo yelled into the phone. "What's happening?" The line was filled with noise. Breaking glass. More gunshots. Then Dante's voice, breathless and urgent. "They're here. For men. They came through the back. I got one, but there's too many. Where's Flavia?" "Upstairs with the babies. I told her to lock herself in the nursery and push furniture against the door." Another gunshot. "I can't hold them off much longer." The phone went dead. Bernardo pushed the gas pedal until it hit the floor. His car flew around curves that should have killed him, but he didn't care. All he could think about was Flavia and the twins trapped in that house while men with guns broke down the doors. His children. His family. The only things in this world that mattered. When he finally reached the dirt road leading to the house, he could see smoke rising above the trees. He skidded to a stop in the driveway and jumped out of the car, pulling his gun from his jacket. The front door was hanging off its hinges. Bullet holes covered the walls. Glass from the broken windows littered the floor like snow. Bernardo stepped inside, his gun raised, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Dante was lying near the kitchen, blood pooling around him. But his chest was still moving, still breathing. Upstairs, Dante gasped when he saw Bernardo. "Luca and Tomas. They're trying to break into the nursery." Bernardo ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. He could hear voices on the second floor. Men's voices. And underneath that, the sound of babies crying. When he reached the top of the stairs, he saw them. Luca and Tomas standing outside the nursery door, kicking it, trying to break it down. A third man lay dead in the hallway, shot by Dante before he fell. "Get away from that door," Bernardo said, his voice cold as ice. Both men spun around. Luca had a gun in his hand. Tomas had a crowbar he'd been using on the door. "Bernardo." Luca's face went pale. "You're supposed to be at a meeting. Plans changed." Bernardo kept his gun pointed at Luca's chest. "Put the gun down. Now." "We can't do that." Luca's hand was shaking, but he didn't lower the weapon. "Graziella paid us. 2 million euros. We have to finish the job." "The job." Bernardo's voice was shaking with rage. "You mean murdering a woman and 2 babies?" "It's just business," Tomas said, but his voice cracked. "Nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" Bernardo took a step closer. "Those are my children behind that door. My blood. And you were going to kill them for money." Behind the nursery door, one of the babies was crying louder now. Bernardo recognized the sound. It was his son, scared and confused and crying for help. Something inside Bernardo snapped. He fired. The bullet hit Tomas in the shoulder, spinning him around. The crowbar clattered to the floor. Tomas fell against the wall, clutching his bleeding shoulder and screaming. Luca fired back. The bullet missed Bernardo by inches, punching a hole in the wall behind him. Bernardo fired again. This time he didn't miss. The bullet hit Luca in the leg, dropping him to his knees. "You betrayed me," Bernardo said, walking closer. "You took money from Graziella. You destroyed my life. You tried to kill my family. She made us, Luca gasped, blood running down his leg. She said if we didn't do it, she'd tell your enemies where to find us. We didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Bernardo stood over him, his gun pointed at Luca's head. You chose money over loyalty. You chose Graziella over me. Please. Luca was crying now, tears mixing with sweat on his face. Please, Bernardo. We've known each other for 15 years. We're brothers. Brothers don't betray each other. Behind the door, the crying stopped. Bernardo heard Flavia's voice, soft and scared. Bernardo? Is it you? It's me. Bernardo called back, not taking his eyes off Luca. Stay inside. Don't open the door until I tell you. Are they gone? Not yet. Luca looked up at Bernardo, his face twisted in pain and fear. What are you going to do? Bernardo thought about all the years of loyalty he'd given these men, all the times he'd protected them, paid them, trusted them, and they had thrown it all away for a woman who cared about nothing but power. I'm giving you a choice, Bernardo said. Leave Italy. Tonight. Change your names. Disappear. If I ever see either of you again, I'll finish what I started. Tomas was already stumbling toward the stairs, holding his bleeding shoulder. We're gone. I swear. We're gone. But Luca didn't move. He stayed on his knees, staring up at Bernardo with hate in his eyes. You're making a mistake. Graziella won't stop. Her father won't stop. They'll come after you. They'll come after that woman and those babies until everyone you love is dead. Let them try. Luca laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You think you can protect them? You're one man. Romano has an army. Then I'll go through his whole army. Bernardo grabbed Luca by the collar and dragged him to his feet. Now get out of my house before I change my mind about letting you live. He shoved Luca toward the stairs. Luca stumbled down them, leaving a trail of blood behind. Bernardo heard the front door slam, heard a car engine start, heard tires screeching as both men fled into the night. Only then did Bernardo lower his gun. Flavia, he called. You can open the door now. He heard furniture scraping across the floor. Then the door opened slowly. Flavia stood there, pale and shaking, with both twins strapped to her chest. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hands were trembling. Are they gone? She whispered. Yes. She looked at the blood on the floor, at the bullet holes in the walls, at Bernardo, standing there with a gun in his hand and murder in his eyes. Then she started crying again. Bernardo put his gun away and stepped toward her. It's over. You're safe now. Safe. Flavia's voice broke. Bernardo, they tried to kill us. They broke into the house. They were going to... She couldn't finish. She just stood there, holding the babies and shaking. Bernardo did something he hadn't done in over a year. He pulled her into his arms, careful not to crush the twins between them. She didn't push him away. She just collapsed against his chest and sobbed. I've got you, Bernardo said quietly. I've got all of you, and I'm never letting go again. Downstairs, Dante called out weakly. Bernardo, you alive up there? I'm alive. Stay there. I'm coming. Bernardo helped Flavia to the bedroom and made sure she and the babies were safe. Then he went back downstairs to Dante. His oldest friend was sitting up now, pressing a towel against the bullet wound at his side. Did you get them? I'll let them go. Dante raised an eyebrow. That's not like you. I know. Bernardo knelt down and checked the wound. It looked bad, but not fatal. But killing them would have been too easy. Now, they have to live knowing they betrayed me and failed. And Graziella? Bernardo's face went hard. Graziella is next. Bernardo found Graziella exactly where he knew she would be. At her apartment, drinking wine and waiting for a phone call that would never come. He didn't knock. He used the spare key she had given him months ago, back when they were pretending to be a real couple. The door opened silently, and he stepped inside. Graziella was sitting on her white couch, wearing a silk robe, her hair loose around her shoulders. She had a wine glass in one hand and her phone in the other. When she saw Bernardo, she smiled. You're early, she said. I wasn't expecting you until morning, after you found the bodies. Bernardo closed the door behind him and locked it. There are no bodies. The smile faded from Graziella's face. What? Your men failed. Flavia and the twins are alive. Dante is alive. and Luca and Tomas are running for their lives somewhere far from here. Graziella stood up slowly, her wine glass shaking in her hand. That's impossible. I got there in time. Bernardo walked closer, his footsteps heavy on her expensive rug. I stopped them, and now I'm here to stop you. Bernardo, let me explain. Graziella set down her wine glass and held up her hands. I did what I had to do. That woman was ruining everything. The wedding, the alliance, our future. I was protecting us. You were protecting yourself. Bernardo's voice was cold and flat. You paid my men to lie to me. You destroyed my relationship with Flavia. You kept my children's secret from me. And tonight, you try to have them all murdered. They were a threat. They were innocent. Bernardo stopped right in front of her. A woman and 2 babies who never did anything to you. And you ordered them killed like they were nothing. Graziella's face changed. The fear disappeared, replaced by something uglier. Anger. You were supposed to be mine. We had a deal. A contract. You don't get to just walk away because some ex-girlfriend showed up with a sob story. Those are my children. I don't care. Graziella's voice rose. I spent 3 years building this. 3 years planning every detail. 3 years waiting for the moment when I would finally have everything I wanted. And then she appears out of nowhere with her cheap clothes and her sad eyes, and suddenly you forget about all of it. I never forgot. I just finally remembered what actually matters. Graziella laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. What matters? Love? Family? You're a criminal, Bernardo. You kill people for a living. You don't get to pretend you're some kind of hero now. I'm not a hero, but I'm not going to let you hurt them. Then what? Graziella crossed her arms. What are you going to do? Kill me? My father will destroy you. His entire organization will come after you. You'll lose everything. I've already lost everything that mattered. The rest is just business. Bernardo pulled out an envelope from his jacket and threw it on the couch. That's a plane ticket. One way to Brazil. There's also a bank account number with 500,000 euros in it. Enough to start over somewhere far away from here. Graziella stared at the envelope like it was a snake. You're exiling me. Yes. And if I refuse, then I go to your father and show him the recordings. The ones where you're planning to kill Flavia and the twins. The ones where you admit to paying my men to betray me. The ones that prove you've been manipulating both of us from the beginning. Bernardo's eyes were hard as stone. Your father is a businessman. He doesn't like people who cause problems. And you, Graziella, are a very big problem. Graziella's face went white. You're bluffing. Bernardo pulled out his phone and played a video. It was security camera footage from the safe house. Clear as day, it showed Graziella standing in the shadows, talking to Luca and Tomas. The audio was perfect. Every word she said about making Flavia disappear. Every threat. Every plan. I'm not bluffing. Graziella grabbed the envelope with shaking hands. I hate you. I know. But you'll hate me from Brazil. Bernardo walked to the door and opened it. The plane leaves in 4 hours. If you're not on it, I send this video to your father. And we both know what he does to people who betray him. He left without looking back. 3 days later, Bernardo sat in Romano Trevisan's warehouse for the second time. But this time, he wasn't afraid. This time, he had the power. Romano stood under that same single light bulb, his face calm, but his eyes cold. My daughter left the country. She didn't even say goodbye. I know. You had something to do with that. Yes. Bernardo pulled out his phone and showed Romano the video. Your daughter tried to have my children killed. She paid my men to betray me. She destroyed my life because she wanted power. Romano watched the video without saying a word. When it finished, he handed the phone back. What do you want? The wedding is off. The alliance is over. You stay away from me, and I stay away from you. And if I refuse, then this video goes to every family in Italy. And everyone will know that Romano Trevisan's daughter is a murderer who can't be trusted. You'll lose every alliance you have. Romano stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly he smiled. It was not a happy smile. You've gotten smarter, more dangerous. Your father would be proud. My father is dead, and I'm done living by his rules. What rules are you living by now? Bernardo thought about Flavia, about the twins, about the way his son had grabbed his finger that morning and held on tight, like Bernardo was the most important thing in the world. My own. Romano nodded once. Then we have no more business together. But Bernardo, remember this. The world we live in doesn't forgive weakness. And love is the biggest weakness of all. Maybe, but it's the only thing worth dying for. Bernardo left the warehouse and drove back to the safe house. He had bought it permanently now. This would be their home. Flavia's and the twins and his. Far from the city. Far from the violence. Far from everything that had almost destroyed them. When he walked inside, he found Flavia sitting on the living room floor with the twins. She was singing to them, that same soft song he'd heard through the car window. The babies were laughing, reaching up with their tiny hands. "Ah," Flavia said when she saw him. She still looked tired, still looked wary, but there was something softer in her eyes now, something that looked almost like trust. "Hi." Bernardo sat down on the floor next to her. His son immediately crawled over and grabbed onto Bernardo's arm, pulling himself up on wobbly legs. The baby stared at him with those dark eyes, so much like Bernardo's own, and smiled. Bernardo picked him up carefully, still not used to how small and fragile babies were. The boy grabbed a handful of Bernardo's shirt and babbled something that sounded almost like words. "He likes you," Flavia said quietly. "I like him too." Bernardo looked at his son, at the tiny hands holding on to him like he was something worth holding on to. He looked at his daughter, crawling around the floor and giggling. He looked at Flavia, who was watching him with careful hope in her eyes. For years, Bernardo had thought power meant being feared. It meant having control. It meant never showing weakness. But sitting on that floor with his children, with the woman he had almost lost forever, Bernardo realized something that changed everything. Real power wasn't about fear or control or violence. Real power was having something worth protecting. Real power was having someone who looked at you like you were their whole world. Real power was being brave enough to love something more than you loved yourself. His son grabbed at the tattoos on Bernardo's neck, the ones that marked him as a member of a world he was starting to leave behind. Bernardo had always thought those tattoos defined him. They were proof of who he was, where he came from, what he had done. But looking at his son now, feeling those tiny fingers touching the ink on his skin, Bernardo realized something. The tattoos didn't matter. The past didn't matter. All that mattered was this. This moment. This family. This second chance he didn't deserve but was getting anyway. "Are you okay?" Flavia asked. Bernardo looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who had survived everything he'd put her through and still found the strength to let him back in her life. "Yeah," he said. "I think I finally am." Outside, the sun was setting over the hills. Inside, three people who had almost lost everything were learning how to be a family. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Bernardo Schiavone felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.